Hello everyone, welcome back to Krishna's lectures. We have started a new series where we are going to study each chapter one by one, and this is going to be a textbook reading session, and this is going to continue till we finish the whole 11th and 12th NCERT textbooks. We will start with the first chapter, The Living World, which comes under the unit Diversity in the Living World. We have here the scientist Ernst Mayr, and we have got to learn about him. Basically, Ernst Mayr has been called the Darwin of 20th century, and we have made a video on it. You can watch it later. He has been given the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. He is considered as one of the greatest scientists of all time, and he has been given the title Triple Crown of Biology because any person who gets Balzan Prize, International Prize for Biology, and Crafoord Prize is going to be given the title Triple Crown of Biology. Here in the first page of Living World, we have nothing to read but to understand the definition of what is living. Okay, when we say living, what we refer to is the characteristics exhibited by living organisms. And this is what we have to understand. When we say living, we refer to the characteristics exhibited by living organisms. And the first characteristic of living organisms is the growth. When we say growth, there are two characteristic features of growth. What are these two characteristic features of growth? We call it two characteristic features, or call it twin characteristics of growth. That is increase in mass, increase in number. Increasing in number and increase in mass, both are actually called as the twin characteristic features of growth. We know that the multicellular organisms grow by cell division, and plants actually grow continuously throughout their life. And here in case of animals, we know that they only grow up to a certain age. So after this, when we say multicellular organisms, we have animals, plants, both of them. Animals only grow up to certain age, and plants grow continuously throughout their span. And we have cell division in certain tissues to replace lost tissue. That means to say that in unicellular, in animals, they only grow up to certain age, but cell division continuously happens to replace the lost tissues. Okay, unicellular organisms also grow by cell division. And how do we consider the growth of unicellular organisms? By simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. And we have to know that non-living organisms are also considered to be growing if we take into consideration the body mass as the criteria for growth. If increase in body mass is considered as the criteria for growth, then even the non-living organisms are considered to be growing. Examples for such things are mountains, boulders, and sand mounds. We have these also to be to be expressing the characteristic features of growth. So the non-living organisms, there is only accumulation of materials just on the surface, but in living organisms the growth is from inside. So that is the reason why the characteristic feature of living organism, when we say, that has to be expressed by all living organisms, because it is not seen, and because it is seen in non-living organisms also, growth is not considered to be a characteristic features, cannot be taken as defining property. But growth is a characteristic feature but not defining property of living organisms. Okay, so if I have to summarize it again, we have multicellular organisms and we have unicellular organisms. Both of them grow, that is by cell division. In case of unicellular organisms, the growth is considered how? By simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. We consider how many cells, the number of cells are there, and we say there is growth. But in case of multicellular organisms, it is increase in mass and increase in size. Okay, increase in number, increase in mass. When we say this, we have in multicellular organisms two types. One, we have animals, and the second one, we have plants. When we say plants grow continuously throughout their life, but in animals the growth is only up to certain age, and after that also cell division occurs. That means to say, after 18 years old, a boy has cell division happening, but the cell division that happens before 18 years in a boy, before 16 in a girl, will lead to the increase in the height of the body. But after 18 in boys and after 16 in girls, there is no increase in height, but there is cell division happening to replace the lost tissue. This is all we have to understand about the growth. Reproduction. Reproduction and growth are considered to be characteristic features, but they are not taken as defining property. Reproduction and growth are considered to be characteristic features of living organisms, but reproduction and growth cannot be taken as defining property. It cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organisms. Okay, so here what is the thing? We have human couples, some of the infertile human couples, mules, sterile worker bees. These cannot actually reproduce. Okay, mules, worker bees, infertile couples, they are also some of them who are, in spite of being living organisms, cannot reproduce. So reproduction cannot be taken as the defining property. Now we shall study what are the other points given here. Okay, multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less or similar to those of parents. So this is actually sexual reproduction. Organisms also reproduce by asexual means. Fungi multiply and spread easily by the production of asexual spores. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we have budding. Planaria, it has high degree of regeneration. Fungi and filamentous algae, that is Protonema of mosses, all of them multiply by fragmentation. In case of bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is increase in number of cells. Okay, we have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence we notice that in single cell organisms we are not clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. So to be summarizing whole of reproduction, what we understand is, in case of multicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are different, because growth is in multicellular organisms increase in number and increase in the mass. So in reproduction we have a new organism being produced which is more or less similar to that of the parent. In case of sexual reproduction, in case of asexual reproduction, the new organism produced is called as a clone. And examples for asexual reproduction, what we have budding, yeast and hydra reproduced by budding. We have fragmentation, who produce by fragmentation, that is fragmentation means you have bacteria, unicellular fungi, filamentous algae and Protonema of mosses. And we have unicellular organisms where the growth and reproduction both are actually synonymous. Who are they? They are bacteria, amoeba, Fine. Bacteria, amoeba, and unicellular algae. Then we have fragmentation. A fragmented part can grow into a new organism that is seen in that is called as regeneration. Okay, regeneration is seen in planaria. So these are the types of asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, we have variation, and in sexual reproduction, growth and reproduction are considered to be different. In unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are considered to be the same, that is in bacteria, amoeba, unicellular algae. Metabolism means what? Basically, metabolism means sum total of all chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. So all the reactions in plant physiology and in chemical coordination, that is in hormones chapter of human physiology, we have so many chemical reactions like glycolysis, Krebs cycle, ETC cycle, electron transport chain, and we have gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis, so many, heme synthesis. These are all chemical reactions that happen in the body. That is, one biomolecule is converted to another biomolecule. But you have to understand that non-living organism exhibits metabolism. But in vitro, if there are any chemical reactions, metabolic reactions happening, they are not living things, but they are surely living reactions. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free system, that is in vitro they can be demonstrated, but that is they are performed in a test tube. They are neither living nor are they non-living, but those are all called as living reactions, but they are not considered to be living or non-living. Okay. But here we have to understand that in human body or any living organisms, chemicals small or big belonging to various classes, sizes, function, etc. are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecule. These conversions are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. So metabolism has been considered to be a defining property. Okay, hence cellular organization of the body is the defining proper feature of all living organisms. I will summarize this metabolism again here. Basically, what is a summary? Metabolism means whatever it is, sum total of all the chemical reactions happening in the body. Chemical reaction means one biomolecule gets converted to another biomolecule. This is the reaction. Examples to this metabolism are glycolysis, that is glucose is broken down into pyruvate or pyruvic acid. Then we have Krebs cycle, etc. These three we study here in 11th grade. But there are other reactions which we don't study here, that is formation of heme and how heme is going to become hemoglobin and how is heme broken into bilirubin. Okay, and all of these chemical reactions we have it in the body. So these chemical reactions are only seen in living organisms, but if they are exhibited in cell-free system, they are considered to be living reactions, but they are neither living or non-living. So cellular organization of the body is considered to be the defining feature of all life forms. Okay, now we have consciousness. This consciousness again is considered to be the defining property of living organisms, because we have the ability to respond to the environment. What is the example? Photoperiod, that means photoperiod affects reproduction. In seasonal breeders, there are few plants and animals who reproduce only during certain period, that is they respond to the change in the environment and only during certain conditions they reproduce. That is called as photoperiodism. Okay. Now The most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is this ability to sense their environment or surroundings and respond to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. Plants actually respond to these all organisms from prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can respond to environmental cues. All organisms handle chemicals entering their body. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Very important. Human beings is the only organism who is aware of himself, as self-consciousness. What is the meaning of this? Example, to be summarizing the whole, when we say plants, when there is photosynthesis happening, we have 10 features. 10 the factors are there. These are all environmental factors that actually affect photosynthesis. That means to say plants have the ability to respond to the environmental changes. Even humans have the ability to respond to the environmental changes, and even animals have the ability to respond to the environmental changes. So what are these environmental changes? What is the example that we can give for animals? Photoperiodism. Photoperiod affects reproduction, means only during certain conditions animals reproduce. But you have to understand that hence in poultry they keep reproducing so much, like so many eggs, but that is human exploitation of the hens for their benefit or for their welfare. That is not reproduction. Okay, that we will study in microbes in living organisms of 12th. So this is all we have to understand here in the self-consciousness part. This is also this having self-consciousness is characteristic of living organisms and is defining property of living organisms too. Okay. Now when it comes to human beings, it is all more difficult to define the living state. Why is it more difficult to define the living state? Suppose for example we have a patient who is in coma, in comatose state. We have machines replacing the heart and lungs. That patient has no self-consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to life normal? Are they considered as living or non-living? In higher classes, you will come to know that living phenomena are due to underlying reactions. Properties of tissues are not present in constituent cells but arise as a result of interaction among the constituent cells. Properties of cellular organelles are not present in their molecular constituents of the organelle but arise as a part of interaction among the molecular component comprising the organelle. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level organization. This phenomena is true in the hierarchy of organizational complex at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology, this we don't need. Biology is a story of life on earth. Biology is a story of evolution of living organisms on earth. All living organisms, present, past, future, are linked to one another by sharing of common genetic material but to varying degrees. This whole para I read not because I have not read it, to make sure that you also get to hear. What are we trying to understand here? The thing is, what is this living phenomena? We are trying to understand the word living phenomena. Living phenomena. Living phenomena means what? It is due to underlying interactions. A tissue doesn't have property of itself. In tissue, the living phenomena is going to arise because individual cells of the tissues interact among each other. In cells, they have no property. There is no living phenomena. In cells, the living phenomena is because of interaction among the organelles which make up the cell. In the organelles also there is no living phenomena, but this is arising due to the interaction of the constituents making up the organelles. That means when we say cell membrane, what we study is it has a bilayer lipid structure. It has one lipid structure, hydrophilic, hydrophobic. Here you have cholesterol, and again here you have bilipid layer. So what is happening here is there is no living phenomena here. It is happening as a result of interaction among the constituents of the substances making up cell organelle. Cell organelle has, many cell organelles make up the cell, many cells make up the tissue, many tissues make up organ, many organs make up organ system, many organ systems make up an individual. That is, the basic thing is the interaction is happening among the substances making up the organelle. Again, if I have to put it in another way, there are many cell organelles which make up a cell, and there is interaction among these cell organelles, and this is responsible for the living phenomena happening in the cell. Again, if I have to put it in another way, there are many cells. These many cells, they interact with each other, and this interaction among the cells is the one which is resulting in living phenomena. Many tissues interact with each other, and that is the reason responsible for this living phenomena. So this is something that we have to understand, and it is quite difficult to understand at this level. So to be summarizing everything that we learnt, we have this Ernst Mayr. He is the Darwin of 20th century, one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. He has been given this title, which we don't have to pay so much attention to, because it has never come, and probably it could come, we never know. Here, what is living? We have features such as growth, reproduction, self-consciousness, metabolism. All these are considered as the characteristic features of living organism. But self-consciousness and metabolism, only these two are considered as the defining property, whereas growth and reproduction are not considered to be the defining property. In another way, we read, to be summarizing whole of growth, multicellular organisms grow, unicellular organisms also grow. In unicellular organisms, the growth is measured by counting the number of cells under the microscope. In multicellular organisms, we consider this increase in number of cells, increase in the mass as the definition for growth. In multicellular organisms, we have animals who grow throughout, we have plants who grow throughout their life, but in animals, they grow only up to certain age, and after that also cell division happens. But that cell division that happens after the growth stops is only to replace the lost tissue. That is, if you are 18 years old and above, you have cell division happening, but that is only to replace the lost tissue, and that is not going to lead to growth. Okay, that cell division that happens after 18 in human males and 16 in human females. Reproduction is a characteristic feature of living organism, but this is not a defining property. Why? In multicellular organisms grow and reproduce. Unicellular organisms also grow and reproduce. In unicellular organisms, that is, the examples are bacteria, amoeba, and unicellular algae, they have no difference between growth and reproduction. In case of multicellular organisms, the growth and reproduction both are very well defined, and they are different. Growth in multicellular organisms is increase in number and increasing mass. Reproduction means giving rise to new organism. Here the reproduction can be of it can be sexually or it can be asexually. If it is asexually, we have budding, we have fragmentation, we have regeneration. Budding, that means here the bud, or in yeast and hydra there is a small part of the body that grows into a new organism and gets separated. Fragmentation, we see this fragmentation in Proteinema of mosses, fungi and filamentous algae. Regeneration, we see it in Planaria. Okay, and fungi also reproduce by asexual spores. That's all. Here this reproduction is not considered to be a characteristic feature, because we have worker bees, we have infertile human couples, mules and steriles. These 4 examples we have to learn: infertile human couples, mules, sterile worker bees. Okay, these 3, sorry, I have to learn these 3 examples: mules, infertile worker bees, infertile human couples. These 3 cannot reproduce, although they are considered to be living. So this reproduction is not considered as an all-inclusive defining characteristic, so it cannot be taken as a defining property. Metabolism, what happens and what did we learn? There are chemical reactions happening. Sum total of all chemical reactions that happen in the body is called as metabolism. If metabolism happens outside, that is in cell-free system, examples of cell-free system is test tube. In test tube, if there is any reaction that is happening, that is considered to be a living reaction, but that reaction is neither living nor non-living. It is surely a living reaction, that's all. But this metabolism is seen in all living organisms, so metabolism is considered to be a defining property of living organisms. Now, self-consciousness. Plants respond to the environment, that is photosynthesis is the example. Animals, they reproduce only at certain, they are seasonal breeders, they reproduce only seasonally. And how do they reproduce only seasonally during that time? That is, they respond to the environmental cues. And humans, obviously we have self-consciousness. So self-consciousness has been considered as the defining property. Now what are we trying to understand in this paragraph is, what is this living phenomena and how is it going to arise? Living phenomena arises from the substances making up the cell organelle. Each cell organelle, for example mitochondria. Mitochondria is made up of chemicals. These chemicals interact with each other and there is a living phenomena arising. This living phenomena of mitochondria is there. This interacts with many other cell organelles making up the cell, and living phenomena is seen in the cellular stage. The living phenomena that is seen in the tissue level is because of the interaction among the cell. The living phenomena that is seen in the organ level is because of the interaction arising from different tissues making up the organ. The living phenomena arising in organ system is because many organs are interacting with each other, and that is how the living phenomena is seen in the organ system stage. And many organ systems interact with each other, and that is the reason, that is going to give rise to living phenomena of the organism. So this is the summary of this. And what we have here is just the definition. Biology is the story of life on earth. It is the evolution of living organisms on earth. All living organisms of past, present, future are linked to one another by sharing the common genetic material but to varying degrees, indirectly hinting that there is evolution happening. Okay.